NFL Network insider Mike Garafolo spoke recently about the Giants coaching staff and what the Giants expect from their coaching staff when it comes to GM Joe Schoen as well as head coach Brian Daboll. Take a listen to what Mike Garafolo had to say.
We all thought year one with this regime, it's like, okay, now they've got things and they're moving in the right direction. And certainly after a couple of quick triggers at the coaching position, they want to stick with this regime. They don't want it to be a 3-and-done type situation. They've had some 2-and-done situations. So they want to be able to have a coaching staff around and the regime around for quite some time.
So I want to know, do you think other GM Joe Schoen and or Brian Daboll deserve to be on the hot seat at the beginning of the 2024-2025 NFL season?
Yes, they both deserve to be on the hot seat. They had a horrible season last year. Daniel Jones was hurt, but maybe that didn't make that much difference. The offensive line was horrible. They had no real weapons for the quarterback to throw to like they had the year before. So I think that, and they lost their defensive coordinator because they couldn't get along with he and Daboll didn't get along very well. Daboll's a madman demeanor on the sidelines is a little crazy. I don't get that. I think that's the wrong way to lead out there. And now he's going to be calling the plays next year. I look for the Giants. We talked about this. I don't think the Giants will do well at all this year. They lost Saquon Barkley. And they lost him to the Philadelphia Eagles. You're going to have to play him twice a year. The guy's going to be pumped to come back and beat you up, and he's got the talent to do it. So I recognize that the Giants have a lot of young players. I think that the leadership there, the owners have said, they will be patient with Daboll and Schoen. I would say the history is they're more patient with the GMs than they are with the coaches. They stuck with Dave Gettleman for 4 years. He wound up with a 19-46 record, which was, in turn, the team was a mess when he left. He lasted 4 years. On the coaching side, if I were Brian Daboll, I'd be worried. No matter what's being said, ask Ben McAdoo, Pat Schumer, and Joe Judge how they fared in New York. None of them lasted very long, and that could pan out this year, particularly with Bill Belichick in the wings, looking for a job, mentioning that the Giants would be one that he'd be interested in. Had 2 Super Bowl wins with the Giants as their defensive coordinator. The Giants were an elite team then. Having him out there in the available to be hired, if the Giants get off to a horrible start, and they're 4-8 in December, I think watch out. I would say at least Daboll will be heading for the exit.
So, I have been very critical of Daniel Jones. I think rightfully so. You give a quarterback that has one okay year after having a bunch of horrible years, a $40 million a year contract, only 2 years later to realize how much of a massive mistake that was. And everybody's saying they're going to get off him after 2 years, which I think is definitely the right move to make. And I think that falls kind of on the previous general manager. It's not Joe Schoen's fault. Hell, I think Joe Schoen's making a couple nice moves. John Michael Schmitz, the center, did a fine job. Now you also added this offseason Illuminor, who should be okay, although I don't think he's going to be great, as well as you added Jon Runyan from the Packers, should be an okay move. And not only that, you got a very, very nice rookie wide receiver in Malik Neighbors instead of going with J.J. McCarthy or another quarterback or any other position piece. So let's take a look at the Giants' offensive weapons, because I think Brian Daboll is doing the best. I'll start with him. I don't think he deserves to be on the hot seat whatsoever because he's doing the best with what he's got. This is their offense heading into, or this is their offensive, it should be offensive weapons heading into 2024. Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Daniel Bellinger, and Theo Johnson. Devin Singletary is supposedly the replacement for Saquon. It's not a replacement. He is not that great of a running back. He did okay with Houston, and he was okay with the Bills. Nothing spectacular. His best year, hands down, was a couple years ago in 2021. He had 870 yards and 7 touchdowns. And actually, no, excuse me, last year was his best year, 898 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's an okay running back, But is he Saquon Barkley? No, he's not. So you downgrade. It's not that big of a downgrade, but you did downgrade. Malik Neighbors being your wide receiver 1. Yeah, no, that's hands down. Malik Neighbors is a tremendous receiver. A lot of people argued towards the very, very end whether or not Malik Neighbors should go first instead of Marvin Harrison, which Marvin Harrison obviously ended up going first ahead of Neighbors. Darius Slayton, okay, not that great. Wan'Dale Robinson, he has a couple nice highlights out there that I've seen that one of my friends, who should remain nameless, he's played for me a couple of times. Yeah, they're nice. He makes a nice cut 3 yards in and runs. He's a great yards after the catch guy. I'll give him that credit. You lost Darren Waller, though. As expected, Waller did retire from the NFL. Now Daniel Bellinger is your tight end 1. That's not that great. And Theo Johnson, rookie. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure he'll be okay, but because of the Giants, I'm not too sure. Now let's go to the proper offensive line. This offensive line is right from the get-go, it looks a little bit better than last year. However, I don't think it will be that much better. So let's begin. Left tackle Andrew Thomas, one of the best left tackles in the NFL, one of the best tackles in the NFL. Now, Jermaine Illuminor, I think is an upgrade. Absolutely an upgrade. However, he's not that great, and especially when it comes to something that the Giants need, which is pass blocking. By the way, the Giants led the NFL in sacks given up. 85 sacks. They had 3 guys, I believe, in the top 10 for most sack quarterback last year. That's a problem. Illuminor, 48 out of 81 pass block grade. So he's about half. Not that great. It's actually a little bit below half. Then Jon Runyan, right guard. John Michael Schmitz, I think, is a perfectly fine center. Growing, very young guy. He's been okay. Runyan, a nice piece to add. An upgrade, definitely, because the Giants had the 30th ranked offensive line last year. However, he's a 47 out of 79 rated guard. Not that great. Not that great at all. And then Evan Neal starting at right tackle is a problem. Evan Neal, we've mentioned on the show, if we're doing another sport, Luka Doncic being a traffic cone, that's Evan Neal. He has literally, we've seen clips of this online, he has decided to pass block and run block his own offensive lineman. That's very embarrassing for a guy, and he's starting as your right tackle. He's not a good right tackle. If you're going to keep him on the starting rotation, the starting offensive line, move him inside so he could have some support from his center and from his right tackle if needed. You leave him alone on an island, I guarantee you, Micah Parsons or whoever will line up against him and beat the hell out of him because he is essentially a traffic cone. So I think Brian Daboll is doing the best with what he's got. Joe Schoen has had a couple nice drafts. I'm not saying that they're home runs, a couple nice ones. But the downfall is actually what Alec Pierce was afraid of, which got Arthur Smith fired, I think will ultimately end up getting Brian Daboll fired. Unless you can convince John Mara that if I didn't have Daniel Jones, I'd be fine. This team would be fine. And that's the big X factor. Your quarterback is Daniel Jones. And that's where I think if he has another bad year, there is a high likelihood, I agree, that at least Brian Daboll will be fired because you have a horrible quarterback starting. And bad quarterbacks get coaches fired. Desmond Ridder did it to Arthur Smith, who I think is actually could be a good thing because Arthur Smith actually fits in with the quarterbacks that the Steelers currently have. So I think it's unfortunate that Daboll may suffer because of bad quarterback play. But I think if Shane and Daboll can convince Mara that let me have one more rookie quarterback, and if he's not good and we miss on it, and the team just is terrible through and through, I think that's when you could be like, okay, fine, we'll let you have one more year, rookie quarterback, see how he develops. Otherwise, you're out of here. That also if Daniel Jones is healthy, which a lot of people say he probably won't be, he's very injury prone. That could also kill your season. Because you're letting a quarterback they're paying $40 million for. You're going to have to pay him $30+ million more because he has that injury guarantee. Which is, again, bad contract structure. He had one okay season of 15 passing touchdowns and 5 picks. Yes, it's a little bit better, but still not all that great.
Well, in the Giants' defense, I will say they did say Shane told the management when he came on and picked up a team that was a mess and managed to get to the playoffs and win one game. was unexpected, and I don't think he thought that meant that everything was fixed. They still had work to do. He told the leadership that it was a more of a big picture plan, and it would take several years to implement. And I think they've made some progress. Fixing the O-line is one of their goals, and as you pointed out, with the offensive line players they have improved it somewhat for this upcoming year. Get some weapons for the quarterback. Well, Malik Neighbors is an excellent choice. He's probably, as you say, could have been deemed the best receiver in the draft, right up there with Marvin Harrison. They wound up getting him. Beef up the defense. They've done that, right? They have one of the best defensive lines in the league now, and that should help them out in low-scoring games, which that's how they're going to have to win, because I don't see their offense putting up many points unless Malik Neighbors comes out and really shows that he can hit the ground running here as a rookie, and Daniel Jones can find a way to get him the ball. Find some quarterback insurance. They did that. They brought in Drew Lock.
You sure that's insurance?
Yeah, well, I think Drew Lock is an upgrade over Tyrod Taylor, who couldn't stay healthy.
Interesting.
So, and I think
interesting.
They've told Drew Lock, they've hinted to him, he has a chance to start. If he really shows what he can do in the preseason, he may have a chance to knock Daniel Jones out there. If Jones starts out very poorly, or if his knee is not fully recovered, although it seems to be. And they didn't re-sign Barkley. I think that was a huge mistake. And, Belichick is out there waiting and watching. And I do think Daboll has a bad season. If you say, as you say, Daniel Jones plays poorly, the poor quarterback play generally costs head coaches their jobs, and that could be the situation here. We'll have to wait and see.
I think it's unfortunate because I do think, Brian Daboll already won a Coach of the Year. I think it's unfortunate that we take a look at this situation and it's bad contract, bad quarterback. You lose a bunch of key pieces, mainly your best offensive player in Saquon Barkley, to your arch nemesis, the Philadelphia Eagles, and then you're expected to have great production from a team that can't produce well in offense. I genuinely believe with Daniel Jones at quarterback, I don't care who the weapons are. The offensive line, we'll have to wait and see. They did get a new offensive line coach, Carmen Brasillo. He was the previous Raiders offensive line coach, which the Raiders haven't had a great offensive line in a very, very long time. And then previously, the 2 seasons prior to that, was the Patriots offensive line coach, which they had an on and off good offensive line, bad offensive line, good offensive line, bad offensive line for a couple seasons now. The previous couple, not that great of an offensive line. So we'll see what Brasillo brings. So the offensive line, that's the massive question mark. If the offensive line is good, let's give it average. We won't give it 30th in the league. Let's double it. They have the 15th best offensive line. I think Daniel Jones could be okay. Okay, meaning 7-10, 8-9. I don't think the Giants are a playoff team.
No. If they go 8-9, Daboll may survive.
I think if they go 8-9, he may survive. But I still think Daniel Jones will not be the starter next year. I do think though Jones would be a pretty good backup. I think he's an upgrade over a Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a starter in the NFL though.
Well, we'll see.
It's just unfortunate because I like Daboll. Coach of the Year. I still thought I called it.
He's a madman on the sidelines.
You can timestamp it on the show. I said after the Titans comeback the Giants had week 1 of last year.
Players fighting with each other on the sidelines, arguing with the coaches. What kind of discipline is that? He has the madman demeanor on the sidelines. I think he has to fix that. He's going to be calling the plays this year. We'll see what happens there. If he can't control his emotions, they'll make some mistakes there. He did make some mistakes in games last year that cost him games.
Hold on. I think Mike Kafka, the OC. I think he's going to do a fine job. I think he's okay.
He's not calling the plays now.
I think
the OC. Don't you expect the OC to call plays?
Who knows? He might call plays. He might.
They say Daboll's going to call them.
They may alternate. There may be situations where, you know what, Kafka calls this game, Daboll calls that game. Yeah. Whoever maybe has the better scheme.
I don't dislike Daboll either, but I liked him the year they made the playoffs. That was he made some really gutsy calls the first game. He went for it went for 2 there and won the game by a point. I thought that was cool.
Well, I said after the game, you could fact check me on this. I said after the game against the Titans, the comeback game, I said Brian Daboll will win Coach of the Year. He won Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. The offensive line's the question mark. That's what affected Daniel Jones the most. I think he got sacked 10 or 11 times against the
quarterback
Seahawks last
is a question mark.
Quarterback has always been a question
Wide
mark.
receiver is a question mark. Will Malik Neighbors be all that he's hyped up to be?
I think he should be. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.